You haven't done anything physically demanding. You didn't run a marathon. You didn't miss a night of sleep. You just had a conversation. Maybe lunch with a friend. Maybe a phone call with a family member. Maybe 30 minutes with a coworker. And now, you are exhausted. Not tired. Exhausted. Like something was quietly taken from you. And here's the part nobody talks about. It's not always the negative people who drain you most. Sometimes it's people you genuinely like. People who did nothing wrong. People you chose to spend time with. And you have no idea why you feel like this after. Today that changes. The prediction machine. One useful way to understand what's happening during every conversation is this. Your brain is constantly making predictions. Your brain is not just listening. It's predicting. Constantly. Rapidly. Obsessively. Before the other person finishes their first sentence, your brain has already started calculating, what version of me does this person expect? What do they need me to be right now? How should I sit? How much should I say? How agreeable should I sound? Think of it like airport security. Your brain scans every face the way a scanner reads luggage, looking for signals, expectations, hidden threats, before a single word has been exchanged. And with most people, the scan is quick. Results come back normal. You know who to be. The cost is low. But with certain people, the scan runs longer. The results are unclear. And part of your mind keeps recalculating. Over and over. Trying to find the right version of you to send into the room. That recalculating is what you feel as tiredness. Your brain would rather become a different version of you than risk getting the social interaction wrong. To your nervous system, uncertainty feels expensive. And expensive thinking leaves you tired. But here's what makes this genuinely surprising. The people whose scan takes longest are almost never the difficult ones, the wrong suspect. Most people blame the obvious ones, the complainer, the critic, the family member who always has a crisis. And yes, those people are draining, but they're draining in a predictable way. Your brain already knows which version of you to send in. The patient version, the calm version, the one who nods and waits for it to be over. Predictable people are tiring, but they're not the most tiring. The most exhausting people are the ones your brain can't quite figure out. The colleague whose mood you can never read. The friend you always feel slightly on edge around without knowing why. The family member who has never said anything wrong, but somehow you always leave feeling less like yourself. Your mind spends the entire interaction running its scan, searching for the right version of you to present, and never quite finding a stable answer. That uncertainty is the real source of the exhaustion, not negativity, unpredictability. And here's the part that changes how you see this entirely. Because the version of you your brain sends in isn't always the real one. The performance cost. Imagine a simple lunch. Nothing dramatic. You and a colleague. But something about this person makes you slightly careful. You edit what you say before you say it. You watch their reaction before you commit to an opinion. You laugh a beat later than you normally would, just to make sure the joke lands the way they'd want it to. By the end of lunch, you've said everything correctly. Nothing went wrong, and you are completely depleted. Here's why. Your brain ran 2 tracks simultaneously the entire time. Track 1, the actual conversation. Track 2, constant self-monitoring. Am I coming across right? Is this too much? Should I have said that differently? Psychologists have a name for this. Social masking. The process of suppressing your natural responses and replacing them with calculated ones. And social masking, even for 30 minutes, costs an enormous amount of cognitive energy. Not because the conversation was hard, because your mind was doing twice the work the whole time. One version of you was present. Another version of you was watching the first one, making corrections in real time. And carrying 2 versions of yourself through a lunch is genuinely exhausting, even when nothing went wrong. So, why do certain people trigger this double tracking while others don't? The answer reveals something most people have never considered about their own relationships. What your tiredness is actually telling you. Your nervous system is doing something very specific when it runs that scan. It's asking one question: is it safe to be myself here? With some people, the answer comes back immediately. Yes. And those conversations feel easy, effortless, even energizing. You leave feeling more like yourself than when you arrived. With other people, the answer takes longer, or never fully arrives. And your mind, which cannot function in permanent uncertainty, defaults to vigilance, watching, monitoring, managing. That vigilance is the tiredness. It's not that certain people take your energy. It's that certain people make your brain work overtime to decide whether it's safe to stop performing. And sometimes, it never decides. So the performance runs the whole time, and you carry it home, and you collapse on the couch, and you don't understand why, because nothing bad actually happened. But something invisible did. Your brain spent an entire conversation asking a question it never got to answer. Think about the drive home. The radio is playing, but you don't hear it. You replay little moments from the conversation, not because anything went wrong, but because your brain is still trying to finish the scan it never completed. The way through, you can't always choose who you spend time with, but you can change what you do with what the tiredness tells you. Because the tiredness is not random, it's precise information. It's your nervous system handing you a report. This relationship required you to be someone other than yourself. This conversation cost more than it gave back. This person makes your brain run 2 tracks instead of 1. Once you can read that report, you stop blaming yourself for the exhaustion. And you start noticing something else. The conversations that don't drain you. The people around whom the scan comes back quickly. The relationships where your brain doesn't need to double track. Is it safe to be myself here? Comes back almost instantly. Yes. And you start moving. Slowly, deliberately, without drama, toward more of those. Not because the other people are bad, but because your nervous system was never built to perform indefinitely, it was built to connect. And there's a difference. So the next time you find yourself on the couch, exhausted after a conversation where nothing went wrong, ask a different question. Not, why am I so tired? But, which version of myself did that conversation require? And was that version the real one? Because the people who leave you most exhausted aren't always the ones who take the most from you. They're the ones who make your brain work hardest to figure out who you're supposed to be. And the people who restore you aren't always the most exciting. They're just the ones around whom your brain finally gets to stop scanning, stop performing, stop running 2 tracks, and just be. If this explains something you felt for years but couldn't name, subscribe to Stickology World, because there's a lot more where this came from. Here at Stickology World, life makes more sense in stick figure.